Here's why less power is actually more for your subwoofers. And you might think I'm crazy, but just hear me out for a little bit. So this used to be my main amplifier. It's the Acoustik RZR1 2500D, and at 1 ohm, this can put out 900 watts RMS, and I've even seen it do more on some other YouTube videos. So it seems like a pretty decent amplifier, but it's also still a budget amplifier, and I did have some problems while using it. It sounded really good, and it did make my subs loud, but the main problem I had with it is that anytime I would start to turn the bass knob up, I would get this very annoying sound coming from my subs, and they would just be unusable. So I was only able to turn up the bass knob like a quarter of the way. Even though my subs are still getting pretty loud, they could be so much louder if I was actually able to turn up the bass knob all the way. But I had plans of getting a capacitor and another power supply so I could finally turn up the bass knob all the way up, so I could have even more output. Until one day, I was playing my system, and I wasn't even playing it the loudest it can go before it started clipping really bad. I was just playing my system like a normal day, just trying to show my brother what it can actually do, until my subs just randomly turned off, and I thought that was kind of odd. So I stopped the music and I went over to the amp to see that there was actually smoke coming from the power wires. So I quickly turned off the power supply that was powering the amp, and I started to inspect everything. And to be honest, I really wasn't finding any problem. Like, I didn't see any wires touching that weren't supposed to be touching. Everything seemed to be fine, and I had been using the same setup in its same state for like 2 months. So I decided to take apart the whole setup, and long story short, the amplifier doesn't work anymore. I even checked every component that was connected to the board on the amplifier, and nothing looks like it blew. Everything looks perfectly fine, but every time I connect the amp to a power supply, which is the way I power it, the wires just start smoking. Even whenever I tried out a fresh pair of wire, it had the same problem. But whenever I connected my spare amplifier up to it, my spare amp fired up perfectly. So the power acoustic amp sadly died on me, and I was pretty bummed out, but at least I had that spare kicker amplifier. This is only a 400 watt RMS amp at 1 ohm, so I lost just a little bit more than double the power. But why is less power more? Well, the reason I say that is because I'm actually able to turn up this amplifier more than I was ever able to turn up the power acoustic amplifier. Even though the subs don't move as much as the power acoustic amp, I'm still able to turn up the bass knob all the way up, which I was never able to do with the other amplifier. And I know this amp does output less power, but I used to use 2 power supplies and a battery with the power acoustic amp, and now I've been only using 1 power supply with the kicker amplifier, and it's been working perfectly fine. And I think I know why that's the case, because the kicker amplifier is actually double the price of the power acoustic amplifier. Even though the kicker amp puts out less power than a power acoustic, I still do think the kicker amp is a little overpriced, but it's still a quality amp, as it just feels high quality, and now I don't have the problems like I used to on the other amp. And even though I downgraded power wise, ever since I moved my subs to my closet, it dropped my peak frequency down by 10 hertz and made the lows quite a bit louder. So even though I have less power, I'd say I'm actually still pretty satisfied with this setup. So if you're looking to get a new amp for your setup, or if you're just starting out, make sure you get a decent amp that isn't so power hungry, because the main reason I was having problems with the power acoustic amp is because it was just so power hungry. So even if you save money on the amp, you still gotta make sure that you have enough power so you don't get bad clipping. But I think that's about it for today. I appreciate you guys for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys learned something new today, and I'll see you all in the next video.